Good day, everyone. I hope you had a great month. We're here for our monthly stream. Just gonna double check to make sure that the sound is all right over here. Um, just have a little bit of delay. I think a minute or two there. Perhaps the audio is a little bit low. Is it any better now? I think it should be. Wait. Here we go. I think it's a little bit better now. You tell me, guys. Um, all right. I think we're getting there. I'll make sure that the audio is here clear. We're not going in the red. Perfect. So just gonna mute this computer here so it does not interfere with the audio. um, Quite a setup here. So perfect. For February's meetup, we're gonna be doing a box called Ambassador. Um, I thought this box was a little bit interesting. Again, this month we're gonna be using the pawn box to to hack this box. Pun intended. And well, hopefully we're gonna get root, right? So let's get this started. For those who don't know me, I'm Psycho. I have different background. I mean, I've been in IT probably forever. I'm a dinosaur at this point. But it's just recently, well, I mean, recently, a couple of years ago, turned back into cybersecurity and essentially just realizing that my light is not at the white. And it's bugging me here. A little bit more clear now instead of those weird glowing lights. All right. I was saying that about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I got involved into cybersecurity. Decided I wanted to point my careers from development, and so here I am. And so the box we're going to be doing today is called Ambassador. This box, I there's not a whole lot of tools involved with the hacking of this box. I thought it was a pretty fun box overall. I mean, you get to work all your SQL skills there, and if you get some pretty good Google foo, you're also able to go ahead and do some. I'm just move. I'm just trying to move my camera. Someone told me that the last time the camera is actually blocking some of the shell, so I'm trying to move it a little bit, move it out of the way here. And same thing for the logo as we talk to you here. So I apologize about this, but I did not remember to do it beforehand, so I figured I would do it. Well, just so you guys can see, it's fun to be able to see what commands I punch in the terminal, right? And not just my big ugly face. All right, so perhaps we should get this started. I'm just making sure. Okay, perfect. So let me share that screen. Awesome. Um, there we go. Perfect. So I've already went ahead and spawned the box, the ambassador box, and I already went and spawned my pawn box. So if you don't know or unsure how to do that, hit me up on Discord. I'll help you get set up with that. It's pretty fun when you have access to it. Essentially, it's a full Linux right into your browser. Um, so as I was saying, the skills you need to go around and hack this box is mostly SQL knowledge. Good skills of Google Fu would help you. I was about to say Kung Fu there for a second. But a good skills of Google Fu will help you find some exploits on Google. And basic Python knowledge, just to be able to differentiate between Python 2, Python 3 code, and also be able to execute that code, right? And I mean, I say be able to execute that code, but I also want to make sure that people understand that you can't just go around and run any code that you find on the internet. I mean, this will probably get you into big problem. Um, so be careful what you run out there. So in this case, I mean, it's perfect because we run it outside of our system. If anything happens, the hack the box is just a virtual machine, so they're gonna kill it. No big deal. So usually the scan that I do is this one here, but I've noticed on the pawn box that the minimum rate 5,000 actually tend to cause problem. So I will go ahead and run the full scan, and while that full scan is running, I'll go ahead and run another scan that's a little bit less true, and essentially just gives us the minimum top 1,000 ports. So without giving any port flag, essentially Nmap will just give you the top 1,000 port. And we can see that it's giving you SQL, it's giving us port 80 for web. We're also getting 3306, which is MySQL. And there's this port 3000 here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's intriguing to me. So while this full scan is running, we're just going to throw that in the background because we don't need that right away. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, this scan right here gives us the what we need to know. But let's just do for good measure here. So we're going to run an Nmap, and this time we're going to do minus a T4, and we're going to run some scripts. We want to be verbose, and we're just going to do it on the port 3000. Essentially, we want to know what's going over there. So IP address 10.10.183, 11.183, and once we have this scan going here, it should tell us a couple of indicator of what we're looking at, essentially. But I can tell you from doing this box recently that it's not quite what it's claiming to be. So it's like something in disguise, if you will. So this scan here is almost done. It's doing some OS detection. And over here it should be almost done, but it's probably been slowed by oh, maybe we lost the box. Let's see here. No, we still have. Did I? All right. Well, I mean, those 4 port is what we have open anyway, so let's just go about our day here and keep on going. Um, so probably we won't see anything in this port. I kind of wanted to see something, but let's let it run. I think it's still running. But I mean, while that's still running, we want to do NCAT and just look what's going on here on that port 3000. And if we do like ELP, we don't know what's going on. Well, we get an HTTP request back. So that tells me that it's basically a web server that we're running over there. But if you remember from the 4 ports, we also have a web server running. So here's the enumeration on the port 3000. It's telling us that it could be an access camera. I don't know for a fact if it was. I didn't check after I rooted the box. All I know is I got root, I took the flag, and I called it a day. Essentially, that's what hackers do as well, right? They go for the data. Once they have your data, they get out of the box and they pretty much call it a day. So, well, no, they don't call it a day. They actually try to they try to lure money out of you. So usually it's that's what they do. Perfect. So now we're gonna close that and let's just take a look at what's going on the website because we got a few. So it's loading these web page. And if we hit the regular, just the main web page, and we're greeted with Ambassador Development Server, so right away we know that it's probably like some form of development server, right? And seems to be having one post. So if we click on the read more, it links to these posts. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to remove that thing here, see if there's perhaps more posts being listed. Seems like there's only that one post. But nonetheless, it seems to be giving us a very good information. We might be looking for a developer's account to log in through SSH in some form or way. And it's talking about DevOps, so maybe this perhaps like an automation pipeline, something along those lines, right? So if we open a new and we go to that famous port 3000, we finally see that it's loading a Grafana. I mean, we could have seen that as well over here. If we go back to the home page and we click on this Wapalizer thing, it basically tells us that it's a Grafana hosted on the Apache server. It's programmed in Go. Website probably Angular. It's running on the Ubuntu server. And Webpack, Lodash, all these stuff, right? But over here, we get the actual, probably what is the admin panel of that Lodash, right? Or Grafana. And one thing to note is that we have that actual version. Now, if we load up a web browser and we Google I can't type Grafana install documentation, I wanted to look at vulnerability actually. So Grafana vulnerability, we come across this high severity. I think that was the one for 9.0, but you see it's also affected others. Um, so it seems like anything between 9.1 and 9.3 is affected with that security vulnerability. And now, if we look deeper into the web, it seems like I should have been doing this inside the VM here. Um, um, and thanks. So, because essentially, we want to be able to find that Grafana exploit. And perhaps we want to give it 8.2.0 as well, right? So we come across this here, the Pedro Arve. Let me just double check it's the one. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's the one. And essentially it tells us it's the exact same thing. It tells us to read some file using this code here. So we're just going to copy this and we're going to go to one of our terminal and we're going to git clone this. Now in here we need to do the pip 3 install requirement, and it's want us to set up a keyring we don't need. It tells us that it's a very bad idea to do so. It's a VM, we're just going to discard it afterwards, so we don't really care about that. And it's just building up our package basically. So once we have that, we got our payload. So in here, let's so it took me a while to figure out how it worked. So essentially we have to put in the websites in here, and the websites are 10 11 183, and we also got the 10 11 183 on port 3000, right? So we're gonna give that in there, and now we're gonna do Python 3 and run that exploit. Essentially it wants us the list, so it wants the target.txt, and it's gonna try all these basically payloads for us until it actually finds the ones that actually works, and it gets to download the database, it gives us a secret, and then it quits. So if we go into this HTTP folder, we see the files that we got downloaded. So we have the password files. Essentially we can confirm in here that we really got that developer account, right? We're really after something that exists. So that's a good thing. And there's also some configuration file for Grafana. I mean, if you want to look at them, I went through them. Pretty boring. There's not a whole lot of information. The command line seems to be empty. It was empty every time that I've seen it. So it's probably some command that needs to be ran that goes through that. It's like a pipeline or something. But something that stands out is that like Grafana DB file. So let's do a cat on this. So first thing, we see some SQL. I mean, I apologize for the SQL or SQL fanatics. I mean, I call it both. I've called it SQL. I've called it SQL. I guess it depends on my mood. So if we scroll all the way to the top of this database file, we can see essentially what I want to show you here is this SQLite format, right? So essentially that's an SQLite format or an SQLite database. So that tells me that if we have SQLite installed, we can just do this. And now in here, we can just type the database command, and it tells us we only have the one main database, right? So we're going to list the tables. Now, there's a couple of tables in here that was interesting. So I went through users. So if you do a select star from user, you get this, right? And you can also do, if you don't know how the user database is, you can do schema user. So it tells you exactly what you're getting, right? So the first thing is the version. You get a login. This is probably the ID, right? And then the email, the name, password, salt, and everything. So we also, another table that was worth looking at that I found was this data source here. So if we do schema on data source, we see we're getting URL, user, password, database. All right, let's do this here. Let's do select URL, user. Is it user or username? User, password, database, from data source. All right. So user is Grafana, database. But there's no URL, right? If you notice. Maybe there's an access. Try access. Proxy, right? So it doesn't really tell you, but I mean, if it's a data source, perhaps it might have something to do with that MySQL database. So if we do host 11.183 and we go to that user Grafana and we want to enter a password. Now we're going to use that password here. Don't stand too close. Let's see if that works. Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, seems that we got a connection. All right. Oh, can't do an LS on the database. My bad. All right. So in here we want to do show database is what we want to do. As soon as I get the prompt here, show database. And we have that Grafana database, but that wacky widget kind of... Ooh, I didn't know what it was, right? Wacky widget. So I was really interested. I got straight into it. And then in here, I went to do show tables. And there's only one table. So let's do a select. let's do everything on users. It's essentially a username and a password. Now, this password seems to be encoded in base 64. Now, if that wouldn't be a good idea. So let's give that a try. So if we do a paste here and we pipe that to base 64 minus D, sure looks like a password. I mean, that's why this is the reason here you don't ever encode your password base 64, because you can just type a command and you get it in plain text. Now, if we open that other SSH developer at 10.10.11.183 and we give it that password, we actually get access. And sure enough, we get our first flag. Perfect. Perfect. So what did you think about the box so far? Did I go a little bit too quick? I'm a little bit on the rush, and I have to go at the top of the hour, so I apologize if I've been rushing through that. I'll try to do the second part a little bit slower so you guys can see it. For now, let's take a minute to digest. Also, I've included the write-up in in Discord, so if you guys want to look at that, I also have all the information and everything I just did here, more details. So we're just going to take a 5-minute break here, and we're going to be right back in rooting this box. See you in a bit. All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you had a nice little breather there. Took a glass of water or something. I sure got something to drink here, um, and so, so let's get back into this here. See if we can root this box. So before we move ahead in rooting this box, I want to say that it basically, for me, it was quite new because I was not familiar with the software. So I started just a top session here to make sure that I didn't lose my connection. So we're in here. We got the user flag. Now we want to do ls-a. We see that there's git config in here, but it's not quite clear what that is. So if we do a cat to that git config, we get prompted with that name, the name of the user, and here an email address, also a directory. So it prompts us to look at what is going on in the OPT directory, right? So in here we see console and myhap. So those, all right, myhap is pretty generic, but console, I'm not quite sure, not familiar with it. So if we go into myhap, we can see that that goes to the wacky widget. So that's why we had these credentials in the beginning, right? So, and we also see we have git ignore. So essentially that means that we're sitting in a git repository, right? The git, the .git folder in the git. So if we do a git log command on here, basically that comes and tells us all these different things that were done, right, on the system. Now if we because this last one here says they TD'd the configuration file, so that tells me that they might have removed stuff that was too much. They might have done some tempering, they might have done something to it. So let's if we do git log again, but we type -p this time because we want to know what's going on in here, and we type that hash number, basically we get to this sum of diff output, right? So it's a little bit different, but over here we see that it gives us a token for console. So I mean, at this point, I'll be fair with you, I did not Google it. I went, I mean, you've heard about it, the whole thing about ChatGPT. So I just went straight to my friend ChatGPT and asked it, what the heck is Conquer? Like, what console? What is it? Like, what does it eat? And that's what it tells me. It told me, like, basically, it's some form of automation. It's something that automates like a network or some kind of pipeline, maybe, from what I understood. So the first thing that came to mind is perhaps there's some kind of exploit to this console thing. So I went to the web, my good old friend Google, and I asked it, console, do you know any exploits? And sure enough, I came through this gamer, Gato gamer, so cat gamer, whatever you want to call them. And essentially, I got this code here onto my machine. So I'll do it in this one over here. So git clone. I'll try to type, all right. and just gonna clone that repo over here. We're gonna go into the ASCII corp folder, and there's just an exploit. So we can't really our box doesn't have access to the internet, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send the exploit here to the developer and 10 10 11 183, and we want to send that to the local folder, and just call that .psycho.py, right? And it asks us for the password. We got the password right here, so let's take that, copy paste this into here. All right, perfect. So let's minimize that window, go back to our shell, and if we go to in here, we should have our .psycho, right? So if we do Python tree, because that's what it is, and .psycho, it basically tells us how to use it. So we need the LH, right? Which is okay. It needs RH. It needs our LH, so it needs our 10 10 14 14, and it needs local port 1234. So we're gonna need to start maybe a listener. And we need this token that we seen earlier. And I'll show you later what that does, but essentially once we do that, it says the request sent, check your listener. And then within a minute or two, like our listener just get root like that. And right, we're root, we can cat that root file, and we're basically done the box. Now, what does this exploit, what does it do, right? So essentially what it does is it takes the token, right? That's the password. That's what authenticates that this old system, and it allows us to send like a query to a machine and basically tell us what we want to do. In this case, what we want to do is running a reverse shell, and we're pretty successful in doing that, right? I mean, we could have run, as you've seen, the reverse shell straight up from the local box. But that's basically it. I mean, tells you all the parameters. There's not a whole lot to this script, right? There's also a Metasploit module for it. So if you know any Metasploit, you can also do the exploit with it. I wanted to do it with the just with the Python script, because I thought that Python script was a little bit easier to digest. Sometimes I mean, I know that Metasploit is aimed to let me just get to this here. So I know sometimes Metasploit's a little bit easier for beginners, but I found that these commands are pretty easy to replicate. And I mean, there's not a whole lot of code in it. Um, the first one's a little bit more complex, but at the same time, yeah, oh yeah, the repo doesn't have a whole lot of creds. So, but since we're running it in a VM, I mean, it's not an excuse, but it's not a system we're gonna keep running, right? It's a system we're gonna kill, we're gonna delete. It's not gonna run anymore. After we're done, we're pretty much done with it. It's getting killed. Um, so I would still be careful of what you run on the internet, though. And that's basically it. I apologize for the yawning there. I'm a little bit tired. It's been a lot going last week. It's been a rough week at work. Um, a lot of work at work is a good thing because then it makes sure that you don't come in the morning and you don't have a job. All right, so well, I hope you liked the walkthrough. And it was a little bit. Even though it's a medium box, I thought it was a little bit easier on the easier side. Maybe I'll do a revision someday that where I'll use all the. I won't use the exploits per se. I'll just replicate it. I'll just replicate it by myself, but. I thought that would be good enough, good for the channel anyway. So anyway, I hope you liked it, and we'll see you next month. I'll be posting in the Discord channel the date of the next meetup. I mean, as always, I'm probably aiming for the last Saturday of March. That's been what we've been doing so far. So, well, that was Psycho, and I hope you have a good one. See you. Have a good day.